So the EDC Den's open tag was least intimidating, most intimidating knives. Well, I've done a video on badass blades already, so you know I've got quite a few blades that I would consider intimidating, and I've got quite a few blades that are anything but intimidating. But so this is just kind of an example. For instance, most intimidating could be a nice little kukri. Least intimidating could be a classic SD. And heck, this one even has flowers and a pink scale. How intimidating could that be? So I've got quite a few least intimidating knives, and I've got quite a few knives that I would consider most intimidating. It's a very subjective term. What is the most intimidating? What is the least intimidating? And basically, the bigger the knife, the more intimidating it gets. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and do a couple of least intimidating, most intimidatings in the same weight class. So like my most intimidating knife that's about 4 inches long with a 3-inch blade. My most intimidating, least intimidating small fixed blade, something like that, and go through it that way and see what you think. Okay, let's start off with a couple fixed blades. Both of these have wood handles. One of them has an olive wood handle. The other one has a rosewood handle, African rosewood handle. One of them is made in Pakistan. The other one is made in the United States. And they both have a blade that is approximately 3 inches long. And well, the more intimidating of the two, my little Pakistani made push dagger. You see that on somebody and they coming at you and you're thinking, wow, that looks a little intimidating. Maybe not the most intimidating thing in the world, but this is really designed to jab and puncture people's innards and stuff. So my little olive wood handled push dagger for the most intimidating out of the two. My least intimidating knife of such a nature, right here, my R. Murphy oyster shucker. If you see somebody coming at you with this, you're thinking, oh, they're going to shuck my oysters for me and I'm going to have something good to eat. Not nearly as sharp on the edges or anything, but tell me that's not going to hurt you if somebody tries to stab you with it. But least intimidating, most intimidating. Okay, let's pull out the next ones. In this case, I'm going to bring out 3 different knives, going with least intimidating to most intimidating. These all are knives with a wooden handle. 2 of them are out of Italy, and one of them, well, I don't really know where it came from, but basically just, well, 2 of them are basically a type of slip joint. The other one, not so much a slip joint. And that's probably why it is the most intimidating of them. All of them are about 4.5, 5 inches long when closed. And so we'll start with the first one here. And that is a mushroom hunter's knife. And well, first of all, people are going to go, it's got a little brush on it. So that's not very intimidating. And then the blade is like a little curvy blade, so you can't really go stabby pokey with it, even though you could slash with it. But you know, most people are not going to look at this and think of it as a scary knife. They're going to look at this thing and go, what is that for? That's really more what they're going to do. And then they see the tweezers at the top, you know, and it's like olive wood handle, and they're thinking, oh, that's kind of neat. What is it? So it's more one of those knives that people are probably going to ask questions about. They're not going to look at it and think, wow, that's scary. It's only scary if you are a mushroom. So that's really not too intimidating. And I think this one might even be about in the same area. It's just an old jackknife. Yeah, it's kind of long. You know, like I said, about 4.5 inches long. It's got that brass bolster at the top. I don't know where this one came from. I bought it online a long time ago for a really low price, and it's a really good knife. Nice carbon steel blade, kind of straight on the bottom. Again, nothing really scary about it. But now this next knife, it's about the same size as either of these two knives, but because its blade is a little more pointy, it becomes scary right away. And then when you see that it has a lock on there and it's got this button, and if you push the button, the blade just snaps out real quick. Well, suddenly it becomes deadly. It's a deadly weapon. And so suddenly this is much more intimidating than either one of these two knives. So yeah, Italian switchblade. Yeah, it's pretty intimidating, I think, especially compared to those two knives. The other thing that's intimidating, if you don't know how to use it, is you have to kind of rock this bolster to loosen the blade so you can actually close it. And if you're not careful, it'll spring open on you, so you got to lock the blade closed, because that button sticks out a bit and you could actually push it and accidentally have it open in your pocket. That could be intimidating for the individual. Okay, the next group is basically a series of toothpicks. I think this is probably the least of the intimidating style of toothpicks because, well, it's got two blades. And as soon as you end up with a knife with two blades, it just doesn't seem as intimidating as a knife with a single blade. And this second blade here is the fish scaler and a bottle opener, so really doesn't seem that intimidating at that point, even though this blade locks, and you probably weren't expecting it to lock, but it actually locks. So that should be a little scarier because now the blade can't close on you, but you don't notice that at first, so it just doesn't seem that intimidating because, well, it's just an old fish knife, right? This is by Buck, and it's out of the Bill Owen's line of knives. It was pretty cool. This one, I guess, should be a little more intimidating because it's 5.5 inches long as opposed to 5 inches long, right? And it's only a single blade, but that single blade is so skinny. I don't think a lot of people, it looks a little intimidating, but that one's even less intimidating than this one is because the long skinny blade, and it's got a little flex to it, and the blade, if you try to poke somebody, it might close up on you. So I don't think that's the most intimidating knife either, even though, Dixie Switch and all sorts of other names, so it is definitely was used for fighting at one time. But really, when you start looking at toothpicks, they're really not intimidating until you get to something like this. The Navajas, that's when they start getting more intimidating because now you have a much wider knife with a larger, pointier clip blade going on down there. You have the lock in place, and it's just a big old blade, and it looks meaner and nastier than the blade on your case toothpick. I mean, which one really looks more intimidating? So you pull this out and you're a little more intimidating than you are with this, and you're a lot more intimidating than with the fish knife here, even though when you think about it, both of those blades could be some serious stabby pokey, but this one just doesn't look nearly as intimidating as this one does. So one more and then we're done with the least to most intimidating. Okay, I've pulled the camera back. You see all the knives we've looked at so far. I've got two more knives to look at, and these they're both fixed blades with about a 7.5 inch main blade, and we're talking least intimidating and most intimidating, and I contend that most people have this backwards. And so the first one I'm going to pull out is the Commando Dagger, the Fairbairn Sykes Commando Dagger from World War II, and this is a copy of it, probably made in China or Japan or somewhere. I don't know where it was made. Nice heavy handle, and you got your double-edged dagger blade. So definitely a intimidating looking knife. And it's a nice fighting knife. Well, nice stabby fighting knife. But then we also have the 7.5-inch chef's knife. I guess that would be considered one of the least intimidating big old knives that you can come across. You find them in every kitchen around and everything else. This one here is by Chicago Cutlery. Really nice knife, nice good handle on it and everything else. But I contend that this knife really should be the knife that intimidates you more, because from what I understand, more people are killed with the kitchen knives than any knife on this board here. And a kitchen chef's knife or a steak knife is more likely to be the knife to do you in than any of these other knives in the background. So just something to think about. It isn't so much what's the most intimidating that's going to kill you. It's the one that most people can easily get a hold of. And that's why kitchen knives really should be intimidating, and they need to be kept out of the hands of small children and stuff who might not know how to handle them correctly. In any case, there's my take on most intimidating, least intimidating. Don't forget, like, share, comment, subscribe. Kitty says thanks for dropping by.